Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing happy, amazing and positive as always. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It will help me out so much. So today we are going to be talking about the Diane Downs case. This case has been a really famous case ever since it happened. So many people are hooked onto this case purely because of the behavioral patterns of Diane Downs. We're going to be going into this case in a different format compared to the ones that I do my normal true crime videos, because I realized as I was literally in the middle of researching this case, I saw on YouTube that Kendall Ray had actually posted about it literally as I was in the middle of researching it. So I watched it and she did an amazing job as always with her true crime cases. So I would recommend you watch that if you're not too familiar with this case, because there are a lot of details that you probably should know already before you watch this case. Because what I'm going to be doing in this case is watching some of Diane Downs' interviews and just kind of analyzing her behavior and her speech and her mannerisms when she was being interviewed during the time where this was blowing up, and also a bit after she got charged as well. I really think going through this and really analyzing that is important to see, you know, to see the type of person that Diane Downs is. If you're not sure, this story, this crime actually was written into a book. A woman called Anne actually sat through the trials and, you know, read all the transcripts and reports and stuff like that and wrote this into a book, which was later produced into a film where Farrah Fawcett did an amazing job with displaying how Diane Downs actually acted and the lack of empathy and the coldness and the almost, you know, celebrity way of behaving when this was happening. She really thought that she was some kind of celebrity when this happened. You know, she loved the camera, she loved, you know, the attention, and Farrah Fawcett does an amazing job with the way, you know, Diane Downs was during that time. You'll see in these interviews how Diane, you know, laughs at inappropriate times, displays very psychotic behavior, very evil behavior. And you would think that, yes, some people, you know, react to grief differently, but this was a whole different thing. If you haven't seen some of the interviews, it is actually terrifying to watch. You also know that if you're aware of this case, you know, Diane's story had a lot of holes in it. A lot of the stuff she said didn't really flow like a normal story would. She would often change her story. She would often change, you know, things that she remembered. It was just all over the place, and she was a prime suspect from the get-go. So if you're not too sure of what this case is about, I will go into it briefly, but if you do want the details, I do honestly recommend watching Kendall Ray's video. And she also posted a video, I think it was like 2 years ago, on her podcast channel as well. So I would definitely recommend watching that also, because it does give you proper details. So before I wanted to get into the case, I will give you a disclaimer that there are a lot of gruesome details and very traumatic details in this video. If this is not your thing, please click out. I've got a lot more lighthearted content that you could watch. And please also know that every piece of information that I found through the media, through news reports, through YouTube videos, through documentaries, through news articles, stuff like that. So I do understand that not all pieces of information will be 100% accurate, but I've done my best to provide as accurate information as possible. Elizabeth Diane Downs was born on the 7th of August 1955 in Phoenix, Arizona. She was known as Elizabeth for a number of years, and later on down the track she does actually change her name to Diane as her primary name. Diane was the oldest of 3 siblings, and she was born into a very conservative and a very traditional household child. Her parents were quite religious, and they were also quite conservative in the way that they dressed, in the way that they presented themselves to society. It was very kind of cutthroat, very by the book. And, you know, there was no room for rebelling. You know, the father was quite strict. The mother was more of the nurturing one. And the siblings kind of did fear the dad a little bit because he was very strict, you know, no emotion, you know, kind of very that alpha male. Diane moved around a lot in her early years up until she was about 11 years old because her father was looking for a stable job, and later he did actually find a stable job with the US Postal Service. Diane would dress in conservative clothing of her parents' choosing, and her parents would choose her haircut as well, you know, very clean, very neat kind of hair. When she went to school, she didn't really have much of a social life, even though she really, really wanted one. She wanted to be accepted by the popular kids in school. So at around age of 14, she started sort of changing the way that she acted and the way that she dressed in order to fit in. The way that her parents were making her act and dress and have her hair, it was like no one really wanted to engage with her. She started wearing clothes that were, you know, kind of showing off her maturing body, that she felt quite sexy in, kind of clothing that the popular kids at school would wear. She also cut her hair to a really short and a very sexy kind of look. She also dyed her hair bleach blonde, and she literally changed so much. She did like a 180, and people started noticing her. People started wanting to, you know, be friends with her. So around this time, this is when Diane met her future baby daddy, Steve. Steve was 16 years old and he lived near Diane's house, and they straight away developed a really, really close relationship. Even though Diane's parents did not like him and did not want them to be in a relationship, Diane was like, stuff you, I do not care. I'm going to be with this guy because I really, really like him. When Diane was 16 years old, her and Steve started sleeping with each other, and this is where her promiscuity started. She loved the attention of males. She, you know, dressed sexy. She loved that kind of seductive personality that she developed over a couple of years. After Diane graduated high school, she was actually quite a smart student. And even the way she talked, you'll hear that she is actually very good at articulating what she's saying. So Steve went and joined the Navy, and Diane enrolled in the Pacific Coast Baptist College. And I'm not sure if this was her choice. I highly doubt that it was her choice. I'm almost certain that her parents made her go to this college. While Steve was in the Navy and while she was in college, they made a pact to stay faithful to each other. But apparently Diane did not keep this promise. And then after 1 year, Diane was actually expelled from this college for promiscuous behavior. And I don't really know what that means because it wasn't really specific, but I'm guessing she was acting in ways that obviously a church would not want you to behave. Once she was expelled, she did go back to her parents' house, and Steve and Diane, despite, you know, a little bit of red flags and despite the infidelity, they still stayed together even though it was long distance. They seemed to be going strong. So despite all the obvious red flags in Diane and Steve's relationship, they decided to elope, and they got married in November 13th, 1973. They instantly had a lot of financial problems. They, you know, would fight a lot. Like anyone that knew them to always be fighting. And Steve would often accuse Diane of cheating, and she would blame him for cheating. And honestly, the relationship was a mess. And despite this mess, very soon after they got married, they had their first child, Christy. And this was in 1974. So this was just a year after they got married. So 2 years after that, their second daughter was born, called Cheryl. And then Steve had a vasectomy, so he could no longer have kids. But Steve believes that the third child, Danny, was conceived through infidelity. And despite this, Steve took in Danny as his own child and loved and nurtured the child as his own. So in 1980, Steve and Diane got divorced because Steve would often find that Diane was cheating, but Diane was like, no, you've also been cheating. And, you know, just the turbulence continued and continued. With time, it actually got a lot worse. It's kind of interesting. Like, I would love to know why Diane would continuously cheat. Was it the thrill? Was it the excitement? Was it that Steve wasn't providing her the emotional support that she needed, and vice versa? You know, it's also said that Steve did physically abuse Diane as well. So was this something that led her into cheating, to fill that kind of void that she was experiencing in her marriage? So after her divorce, she went back and forth with a lot of men, some of them which were married. She developed an even more seductive personality. She would move in with multiple men sometimes, and then move out, move in, move out. There was just a lot of that going on. She loved the attention. She was very charismatic. She knew how to talk to men. She was very confident. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she was going to get it. Then 2 years after her divorce, she met a man called Nick, who ended up being her lover. He was actually married, although at the time he was separated, and they developed this very, you know, sex-fueled relationship. Diane became obsessed with him. I'm talking obsessed. Like, she would write him poems. She would force him to divorce his wife and stuff like that. It was super obsessive. And Nick was kind of like, dude, this is too much. Like, you know, you've got kids, you come with baggage. You know, he liked kids, but he didn't want any of his own. He did not want to be a father, especially a father to someone else's kids. So because of this, and because of her obsessiveness and the pressure that she gave him to divorce his wife, he's like, I don't want any of this, and stopped seeing her. And this absolutely devastated Diane. She never really got over the relationship. Main reason being because she had kids and he was not willing to have that responsibility. I mean, yes, that is a huge responsibility. It's not just something you just go into lightly, especially if you're not ready. But Diane had a really difficult time understanding his point of view, and would write him letters and, you know, saying, I love you so much, and Nick, you're the only one for me, and I'll never love anyone else like I've loved you, and, you know, just really professing her love. She would write him poems, and a lot of the times, actually I think all of the time, Nick did not respond to her letters and would send them back to her. She would also write about him in her diary, and it was just, she was very passionate about him. You know, she just really, really wanted him. And then after this, Diane was actually a surrogate mother where she earned $10K. She often boasted about making beautiful babies, and, you know, as if like kids were a trophy, you know, look how many beautiful babies I can pop out. And she wasn't very like nurturing when she spoke about kids. She was very just like, yeah, I make beautiful babies, and that's that, you know. She just used kids as props just to kind of make herself look really good. She tried to even open up her own surrogate clinic. That absolutely did not work out. She failed a couple of psychiatric tests. Yeah, and it's great that they do have these tests, because damn, if they didn't, I don't even want to know where she would be. And obviously this test did show a couple of red flags with her mental state. She then got a job at the postal service and would leave her kids with just babysitters all the time, neighbors, family members, and it was always different people. The neighbors even said that the kids looked quite neglected. You know, they didn't have proper clothes, appropriate clothes for the weather. They were often quite hungry, and they would go and ask for food. Christy, who was 6 at the time, would take care of her siblings sometimes if she couldn't find a babysitter, which I find really neglectful. A 6-year-old looking after 2 of her siblings is not normal. You know, a 6-year-old can't look after herself, let alone 2 other kids. So the day of the murder, Diane took her kids to one of her friend's house, and they spent some time with her friend. And it started getting a little bit late and it was dark out, so Diane decided to take the kids home. On the route home, she saw a road that she had never been on before, so she decided to explore the road. So she decided to go on this abandoned road sightseeing, which is so odd. Sightseeing at night is only kind of a thing when you go to a city, when there's, you know, lights and buildings and that sort of thing. Not in an abandoned road. What are you going to see on an abandoned road? Like, I know there was a lake nearby, but you could not see that lake in the middle of the night when it's dark. It's pretty impossible unless you're getting out of the car and like actually looking over to see the lake. You know, it's just, I just find it so bizarre that you would decide to do that. But we'll go into all that a bit later on. So as she's going down this abandoned road, someone apparently comes out and flags her down. And Diane, a little bit concerned that this man might be hurt or something, she stopped. Now, with 3 kids in the car, sleeping in the middle of the night, what's the worst thing that you could possibly do in a situation like that? If this situation was true, what's the worst thing that you could do? Stop and get out of the car and see what this random hair, what does she name this guy? Bushy-haired man? Bushy-haired stranger, that's what she said. Sorry, I'm looking, I had to look down at my notes for that one. She stops, and not just like stop, roll the window down a little bit just to see like if this person is okay. She decides to stop the car, take out the key from the ignition, gets out of the car. I mean, if anything, if you really had to stop, wouldn't you just wind your window down a little bit and make sure that, you know, your foot is on the gas ready to go if something happens? No, she decides to get out of the car and ask him what was wrong. And he says, I want your car. And she goes, you've got to be kidding me, and starts shooting at her kids. Now, firstly, how would you even know that there's kids in the car when it's dark? Diane says that this happened within 5 to 10 seconds. How would that guy look in the car, see there's kids, start shooting 3 different kids, fighting her as well, and then shoots her in the arm? How does that happen in between 5 to 10 seconds? I mean, a minute or 2, I can understand that. But Diane says that this took place within 5 to 10 seconds, and I find that absolutely unbelievable. She says that she took the key out for the safety of her kids, faked throwing the key so that the guy would go and run after the key. And when she faked throwing the key, this is after she was shot, she ran back in the car. She still had the key in her hand. She turned it on and she drove off, and the car door slammed itself shut. And she drove off really, really fast. This is when she said that she started racing to the hospital. Now, I find it hard to believe that if this man was randomly killing 3 kids, why would he just shoot Diane in the arm where it's absolutely not lethal? You know, anyone could survive that. And, you know, wouldn't he try to make sure that she was dead? Because, you know, she's obviously like the main witness. The kids were kind of in the car. It was dark. Why would you only shoot her in the arm? It just doesn't make sense. And I'm sorry, but what was a stranger doing on this abandoned road? And how did he even get to this abandoned road if there was no car or anything nearby? Like, how did he get there in the first place? And if it was someone who lived around that area, I'm pretty sure the cops would have gone to check all those houses and found no one of that description. So she's driving to the hospital, and apparently this is when the trial was happening. A witness came onto the stand and said that he actually saw Diane's car on that road on that night at that time, and she was driving extremely slow to the point where this truck driver's speedometer was not moving at all. And he was kind of like, is everything okay? Like, why is she moving so slowly? Is she okay? It almost seemed as if she was purposely driving slowly just to piss the driver off behind her, but he just went around her and drove off at a normal speed. She got to the hospital, you know, Hungry Like a Wolf was playing in the car. She's kind of got the music on still, and you know, it's kind of like, why would you have music on when your kids are dying? And wouldn't you try to just turn every possible sound off and just, you know, talk some support into the kids, comfort into the kids, or I don't know. So she gets to the hospital, she stops her car, she lets nurses and doctors know that they've been shot, whatnot. Kids go in, emergency, and the nurses and doctors note that she is absolutely cold. She's not she's not crying, she's not hysterical. She's very different to what a mother would act like when their kids are literally dying. And Cheryl, unfortunately, by the time she got to the hospital, Cheryl had actually passed away. Christy suffered from a stroke, and Danny was hit in the back and was paralyzed. So she was, yeah, like no emotion, no nothing. She kind of accepted straight away that Danny was paralyzed. She didn't really seem that upset about it. She was just like, okay, cool. And she also voiced that she was surprised that Danny was not hit in the heart, which is a very odd thing to say. You'd almost be so relieved, right? You would be relieved to hear that your child was not hit in the heart, not like, oh really, he wasn't hit in the heart? Like, that's the weirdest thing ever. And straight away, the doctors and nurses knew that she was not acting right. Something was seriously wrong. And instead of calling Steve the father, she calls Nick her lover who has left her because he doesn't want a bar of her. That is a strong indication that she wanted attention from him, she wanted sympathy, and she wanted Nick to come running back to Diane to give her the comfort that she so rightfully deserved. It just baffles my mind. It really does. Firstly, you know, you're driving 2 kilometers an hour. Why was she doing that? Why was she driving 2 kilometers an hour? Obviously, it's because she was giving more time to pass, because the more time she let pass, the higher of the chance that these kids would have passed away. So she knew what she was doing. You know, she's jamming out to music. She's taking her time as if she's, you know, just on a scenic route somewhere, you know, just chilling. She knows what she was doing. She was letting as much time go, as much time pass, so it would higher her chances of what she was trying to achieve, because she didn't achieve it straight away. So obviously the investigators are extremely suspicious at this point. She, you know, is getting a lot of media coverage. Everyone's feeling sorry for her. But then everyone starts noticing that she is acting really, really strange. Like, she got a new haircut, she's smiling at the camera, she's loving the attention. People started wondering, what is going on? Why is she acting like this? You know, she was saying that this whole thing happened within 5 to 10 seconds. People were like, how did this whole thing happen in 5 to 10 seconds? That is impossible. The blood splatters in the car were very inconsistent to her story. And one other very important thing to note, if you didn't know this already, Diane had a towel that was wrapped neatly over the arm that was wounded. How are you going to drive and also wrap a towel neatly over your arm? Tell me how. How do you fold the towel and then sort of wrap it around? Like, you know, she's folded the towel. Say this is a piece of tissue, but this is how she folded the towel that went over her arm. I needed 2 hands to do that. I would not be able to do that with 1 hand, especially something that is so big, like a towel. That's 1 hand. That's not anywhere as neat as Diane had it. But apparently her one was neatly rolled up, tightly rolled up, and covering her wound. The blood on the towel was not everywhere. You know, you think if you've gotten shot, you know, you're bleeding, whatnot, your kids are bleeding, you'd have blood everywhere on the towel. It was not. It was just on the wound and also the exit wound as well. It was just on 2 spots on the towel, which indicated that the towel was pre-rolled. And why are you going to roll a towel like that? Why are you going to fold a towel like that? People don't do that. Usually you just chuck a towel in your car, especially if you've got kids. You know, it's not abnormal to have a towel in your car. That's pretty normal if you've got young kids. She probably rolled the towel, shot herself, and then took it and wrapped it and sat back into the car and drove off. The investigators checked around that area that she was at. They only found bullet casings, which actually did match the gun that Diane actually owned. And at first she said she didn't own a gun, and then later it came out that she actually did. So how is it a coincidence that this bushy-haired man had the same gun as her, or a similar gun as her, that matched the bullet casings? It just doesn't make any sense. How many guns are there? How many models of guns are there in the world? And this guy apparently had a very similar gun to hers. Come on. And she also described this man to be in his late 20s. Now, I'm going to put a picture up here and show you guys. Does this man look like he's in his late 20s to you? I'm sorry, that looks like a late 30s, early 40s-year-old man. Bushy head man. You know, oh my God, he does not look late 20s. Let me tell you that much. That's the first thing I thought is, how is this man late 20s? If you're not lying, if you're not guilty, why would you say you didn't own a gun when you did? That's straight lying. That straight shows that there's something that you're hiding, because she could have said, yeah, I do have this gun, but it wasn't with me. Like any person who was innocent would have a way to explain that. So in trial, she used, you know, her childhood trauma, which later on proved to be wrong. She actually admitted it to be wrong. She said that her father was sexually abusing her from a very young age, and this was not true. The father, the poor father, still tried to take Diane's side. And, you know, of course, that's pretty normal for a father to believe their child. You know, obviously he's seeing her as his child, that she would be incapable of doing something like that. So I understand why, but in the beginning, the father did say that Diane's story did not sound very legitimate and did sound as if she did it. But then later on, he decided to support her instead of accusing her. So once Christy got out of her coma and she was able to speak again, she obviously went through a lot of therapy to be able to talk about this in the trial, and to the cops. She saw a therapist who would tell her to write down the name of the person who did this, and that she didn't have to share who it was, that she could just write the name down on the paper and throw it into the fire and no one will ever know. And Christy was not comfortable with showing the piece of paper with the name on it, so she would often just throw it into the fire. And this happened several times until one day Christy was ready to show the piece of paper to the cops and the therapist, and they opened it up, and obviously the name said my mum. So during the trial, Christy was on the stand and she testified against her mother, saying it was her mum who shot her and the kids and herself. So now I just tried to get as much of the story out as possible. I know it was quite long. It would be longer if I went through every little detail, which go to Kendall Ray's video. She does it really well. So now together we're gonna watch some of these videos and analyze the way that she talked, the way that she was, and we'll talk about it as we go.
If I had shot my own children, would I not have done a good job of it?
Okay, straight away I see an issue here. She says, if I had shot my children, wouldn't I have not have done a good job of it? Why is she describing the murder of her kids as wouldn't I have done a good job? This is not just some kind of job that you have stacking shelves or, you know, writing a report for your job. This is, you're talking about the murder, you're talking about killings of your children, and you're saying, wouldn't I have done a good job of it? It's just the way that she's speaking about it so coldly. Wouldn't I have done a good job of it? It's actually so focused on making sure that, you know, whatever she's saying is deemed to be right and perceived to be right by the public, that she doesn't really care how she's speaking. She's just saying things so that the public will believe her. Anyway, let's continue.
When I go to bed, I cry at night. Even now, I still cry. I dream about Cheryl.
I talked to her for about 2 hours on camera, and she didn't cry. It was uncanny.
Why is she laughing? Let's go back. Let's go back.
When I go to bed, I cry at night.
Why is she smiling? I want to know why she, like, is there a psychologist that can actually tell me why she is smiling? If you're talking about you crying and you being upset over something, wouldn't you talk about it in a more gentle and sensitive way, in a way that actually shows emotion? She's not even trying. She's not even trying to show any emotion. She's just being so straight up, like laughing about it. It's just insane to me. If you're talking about something that is such a traumatic event and you're crying about your child who's passed away and the other 2 kids who are severely injured, it's just like, how are you smiling about it? How? I just don't understand. It's like she's trying to play the interviewer, like, oh, look how bad I've got it, like, look how sad I am and I can't move on, and but also what she's thinking inside in her subconscious is coming out physically, is thinking, I'm fooling everyone, I'm getting away with this, I'm talking so much that everything that I'm saying is going to prove me innocent, because she believed her own lies that much. Anyway, let's continue.
I talked to her for about 2 hours on camera, and she didn't cry. It was uncanny. I mean, I wanted to cry.
The interviewer seemed more upset than Diane did. You're talking about something so traumatic and you're laughing about it, you're joking about it as if you're just talking to your friends about something funny. Diane seems to be loving the interviewer's reactions because, the interviewer's facial expressions were quite prominent. You could see that she was distressed hearing what she was hearing. And Diane is loving that she has this effect on the interviewer, and she's seeing it firsthand with the way that people are reacting to this horrible crime, to this horrible situation. She's great at telling stories. She engages you, but for all the wrong reasons. She's loving the attention. She's loving the sympathy. In this interview, if you watch the whole thing, she continues to talk and talk and talk. And it's almost as if she keeps talking so that the interviewer can't chime in and ask her more questions that she would have to think about. She thinks by talking more and more, she's letting more and more people believe her more and more, if that makes sense.
I got pregnant because I miss Christy and I miss Danny and I miss Cheryl so much. I'm never going to see Cheryl on earth again.
Just that. I'm never going to see Cheryl on earth again. No ounce of sadness. Nothing. One thing I didn't mention is during the trial, she fell pregnant again. And this is what she's talking about, is that the interviewer asked her, she got pregnant. Why did she get pregnant? And she's pretty much saying that she's having more kids because she's lost one. The other two, she is not allowed to see. So she'll just have more kids when she clearly knows that she's probably not going to be able to see this kid because she's going to jail.
You can't replace children, but you can replace the effect that they give you. And they give me love, they give me satisfaction, they give me stability, they give me a reason to live and a reason to be happy. And that's gone. They took it from me. But children are so easy to conceive.
Oh my God. So because they're easy to conceive, you just keep popping them out? Like, doesn't matter about the other one. Let's just keep popping them out, it'll get better. It's just the way she talks about it has no emotion, has no real deepness to it. It's just, I'm going to keep popping out these babies. I mean, obviously there's nothing wrong with having kids, but it's just the way that she's describing having more and more kids.
And that's gone. They took it from me.
Even when she says, they took it from me. Let's watch that bit again.
And they took it from me.
Do you see that she smiles a little bit and then she kind of does this thing with her lips? Like maybe she's realized that she's smiling, or it's a way of distracting her mind to not believe that she's lying. It's like a little self-soothing way of behaving, because she took her kids from her. She killed one of her kids. She shot the other two. She took her kids, no one else. The investigators took the kids from her because they're trying to protect the other two so that the other two don't die either, because she could possibly do something to them.
At night, when I close my eyes, I can see Christy reaching her hand out to me while I'm driving, and the blood just keep coming out of her mouth. And that, maybe it'll fade too with time, but I don't think so. That haunts me the most.
No emotion. She's talking about her child bleeding out as if she's just talking about that she stubbed her toe in the corner of her bed at night. The blood coming out, like storytelling. No trauma evident in her facial expressions, in her eyes. Like if you look at her eyes, it's just cold. There's nothing there. There's no sadness or anything. She's just storytelling to make sure that what she's saying is going with the story. She's adding graphic detail to gain more of a reaction from the interviewer and from the viewers, to gain sympathy. That's why she's adding all this. If you're talking about your child bleeding out who actually ended up having a stroke and being in a coma, you probably wouldn't even be able to talk about it. You probably, especially with such ease, you'd be like, I don't want to talk about this. This is too traumatic. You know, you'd describe it in a way that you could obviously see that it's something that is so hard to talk about. But with her, there's none of that. There's none of that. And then she does this smile. Like, how evil does that smile look? It looks so evil. Like, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It is spine tingling. I don't even know how the interviewer didn't just freaking pounce on her, because if I saw that, I would have probably walked out. I don't even know how I would have reacted to that.
You've changed it by saying that this guy knew you now, he knew your tattoo, he knows about you, he threatened you. That's a hell of a change from what you said the first time around.
There was no reason for you not to say that at the very beginning.
Okay. No reason in your mind.
Feel guilty about what you did, Diane?
No, because I didn't do anything wrong. And I wouldn't change it if I could. My kids and I always took the back road. Since you guys seem to think that I should have brought Diane with me, I will get it myself. Because I know who did it.
You do know who did it?
Yes, I do. I damn sure do.
She changed her story and said that this person actually knew her because he said her name and recognized a tattoo on her back. How did he firstly see the tattoo in the middle of the night? That's not the first thing you would see in someone, right? So the investigator said there was no reason for you not to have told us that from the very beginning. Why did you not tell us that from the beginning? And then she goes, well, yeah, okay, no reason in your mind. When she doesn't have a way to justify what she's saying, she could have said, yeah, that's a very vital piece of information that I've forgotten, something along those lines. But she says, okay, no reason in your mind. That's a very manipulative way to turn it back around to the investigators and say, yeah, well, that's on you. That's on you. I've got nothing to do with that. In fact, your child has just died. 2 of them are critical. And you're saying, yeah, no reason in your mind that I didn't tell you guys. That is classic manipulative behavior right there.
Feel guilty about what you did, Diane?
No, because I didn't do anything wrong. And I wouldn't change it if I could. My kids and I always took the back roads.
I wouldn't change it if I could. My kids and I always took the back roads. So, it's so frustrating to me. You wouldn't change it. You don't look at that situation, that decision that you made to take the back road and go, I wish if only I hadn't done that. If only I had just gone straight home. If only I had not decided to take that road, my child Cheryl would still be alive and my other 2 kids would be perfectly healthy. But she says, I wouldn't change it if I could. So you're saying if someone gave you the chance to change that, someone took you back in time and you had that same decision and you knew what was going to happen, you still wouldn't change it? How is that even like a thing that she's saying? The guy goes, do you feel guilty? Then she goes, no. Then there's a pause because I didn't do anything wrong. Why did she say no and then pause? Did she pause because she realized what she said? Because of course, with her mannerisms, she doesn't seem like she has any remorse. So why would she say anything else, you know? Did the truth come out? And then she paused and it was like, because I didn't do anything wrong. Any other mother would be like, I wish I never took that bloody road. Something like that. Not once do you hear her say, I wish I had just changed my decision when I had the chance and not taken that road. If she wasn't the one that did it, why was Christy's heart monitor spiking every time Diane entered the room when she was in a coma in her hospital room? Christy's heart rate would go up really high every time Diane entered the room. I mean, it could be excitement because the mum was there, but the doctors and nurses said that it showed fear in Christy when Diane entered the room. Obviously, Christy was aware. A lot of the times patients are aware when they're aware of their surroundings when they're in a coma. This obviously shows that Christy was frightened of her mother, scared that she had entered the room. And why else would that be other than the fact that Diane is the one that did this?
It was like something out of a bad made-for-TV movie.
Look at her.
You have the defendant.
My whole life.
She's like smiling. She's got her hair beautifully done. She's, dressed really nicely. She's literally in her mind thinking that she is a celebrity and that these are paparazzis. That's what she's thinking. Like, she's literally thinking that people are like wanting to get her autograph or a picture with her. Like, that is the mindset she's in. She's loving, she's soaking this attention up like a sponge. The cameras loved her. She looked great on camera. She was giving the public so much to talk about. So much. That is not a normal thing. That is not a normal way to behave. I'm sorry. Again, right here, she is smiling, you know, she's loving it. Like, she's absolutely loving the attention. It's actually disgusting.
Diane's the type of woman who I think could cut your throat and then sit down and have lunch next to your body.
Yes. Took the words right out of my mouth. She is the type of woman that would do something like that. I do not doubt that one bit. That is how psychotic she is.
I wouldn't walk in there and say, this weird person came up out of nowhere and shot us for no reason and just left. I mean, that's not a believable story. I could have, if I had done this, I could have come up with a believable story. It really happened.
Yeah, this random man you speak of killed your child. That's another thing that I find is that she doesn't really talk about Cheryl. Like, she doesn't actually say her name very much. You know, she doesn't really acknowledge that he, this bushy-haired man, killed Cheryl. She's just so like, listen to me, what I'm saying. You know, everything I'm saying is right. Like, how are people going to blame me? I'm the mother. I would never do something like that. You're not fooling anyone, Diane.
I could smell the blood. I could smell the gunpowder. It was just a really, really horrible feeling.
It's so poetic. The way that she's saying, I could smell the blood and the gunpowder. It's almost like she has this little smile that she hides away. She uses that as like, I am so traumatized. She uses like graphic detail to indicate how traumatized she is. But I'm sorry, like, if you're traumatized, you don't talk this openly to interviewers about something like this. I just don't understand. I know this is a number of years later, so maybe it was a little bit easier to talk about, but there's just still no emotion. She looks away off in the distance to kind of show that she's in this like moment of reflection and, you know, looking back at what's happened, but it's coldness. You can't see her tone doesn't even change. Like, her tone just stays this monotone for you know, this whole part.
Sure, I could sit here and cry and
oh my god, oh my god, I have no words. What? Yes, bitch, cry. This is your child who's been killed.
cry and be all upset. And what's it going to prove? It proves nothing. I am who I am, and I can't prove that I'm anybody other than what I am.
See, she's all about proving herself. All she cares about is proving herself to be innocent. That's it. Stop worrying so much about what people are going to think. If that was a mother who was innocent, this is not how she would be freaking wording her sentences. She'd be heartbroken that people think that she's the one that did it. She doesn't seem heartbroken. She just seems frustrated that people are not believing her stories because she believes herself so much in her head that it all makes sense. But everyone else hearing this is like, what are you on about? In her head, all of what she's saying makes sense. So she's frustrated that why are people not seeing what I'm seeing? Why are people not hearing what I'm hearing? It's because she's completely deluded. She does not believe that she did it. Like, she's literally lied so much that it's in her blood now to believe what she's saying.
I got pregnant when I wasn't allowed to, and I'm not saying he forbade me to get pregnant, but I didn't consult him. I wanted to have children, and so I got pregnant without asking permission.
Okay, so that right there shows that she will do anything she wants to get what she wants. It's almost as if she uses kids for kids to love her, not her love the kids. She knows how to get what she wants. If you want another child, you do kind of discuss it with your husband. And she's saying that she did not discuss it and she just did it. So this proves that she does get what she wants because she will fight for it. So for people not believing her, she's not getting what she wants. So she's freaking frustrated at people for not believing her.
According to police, she became obsessed with trying to get him, writing him letters every day, but they would come back unopened.
He would change his mind on a daily basis. I'm coming, I'm going, I'm coming, I'm going. I want a divorce, I've changed my mind, I don't want a divorce. A week and a half later, he changes his mind, he doesn't want a divorce.
Why are you even talking about Nick? She's talking about this as if she's talking to her friends about some F-boy that she dated. Like, oh, he keeps changing his mind. Like, Oh, it's so annoying. You know, if this was seriously a heartbreaking thing for Diane, you know, with what happened, she would be like, I don't care about Nick. We're not talking about Nick. Wouldn't you say something like that? Nick has got nothing to do with this. But no, she's talking about him every chance that she gets. So, you know, it's like her therapy. It's like, oh, you know, look how I was treated. Honey, no one's feeling sorry for you. I'm sorry. He made it clear that he does not want to be with you. You got to just accept that. It's like she's following a script. She's always saying the same things in the same way in so many interviews. Every question that the interviewer asks, she has a script all ready to go.
This individual talked to you, referred to you by name, and also referred to your tattoo.
Right.
As close as you can remember, what did he tell you?
If you say anything about what happened here, that they'd come back and kill me. It wasn't an intentional lie, though. I didn't sit.
But you
just
changed
sit
your
there.
story.
Oh yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, you know, you've heard it. It's obvious.
Doesn't that make it seem kind of tough to believe what you're saying? If you change your story 2 months after the shooting?
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to believe me. I'm not saying that anybody has to believe me. But I know within myself, I can sit here with a clear conscience and know that I did not shoot my kids.
There was led to the
Kids.
Oh my God. As soon as she says that, she looks away. As soon as she says that, she looks away. Because that is an indication that she's not telling the truth. You know, that's basic, like, psychology. As soon as people question her a little bit, like, you know, your story changed. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? She's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Can't justify it. You know, as soon as she can't explain something, she'll just like, I don't know. Any person who is telling the truth would be able to justify that.
Diane being led to the courthouse in a maternity gown and handcuffs.
Like, she's literally using this child as a prop.
Why are you here?
I don't know.
Even that, oh, God, so over it. Give me a break.
Doesn't that kill you?
No,
Why?
I'm a survivor.
Once again, focused on herself, focused on how she's a survivor. She's the strong one. Her kids got shot to the point where they have issues to this day. She's healed. She's fine. She's just so focused on herself. She just feels so sorry for herself. Like, you know, victim mindset. That's what it is. Victim mindset. Like, I don't know why I'm here. It's ridiculous.
I just kept saying, God, do what's best. You know, if they gotta die, let them die, but don't let them suffer.
You would be praying to every possible God in this world. Please, please make sure my kids survive. God be with them. You would be absolutely hysterically begging God to make sure that your kids survive, not let them die if that's what's best. No, if they're your kids and you love them so much, that's the last thing you would be saying. This next clip is the scariest clip out of this whole thing, I reckon.
I'm going to do a videotape reenactment. Sitting in the car is Elizabeth Diane Downs.
Oh my God. Do you see how she's fixing her hair? Why are you fixing your hair? Because you know there's a camera there that's going to capture your every moment. She's not like, oh my God, I am about to reenact the most traumatic thing in my life. This is going to be difficult. This is going to be the most difficult thing that I'm doing, you know? But she's fixing her hair. She's making herself presentable for the camera. You would be so nervous and so scared to reenact this because it's such a traumatic thing. How are you going about this? So like, let me just fix my hair and my makeup.
I'm throwing the keys, okay? I'm throwing the keys.
Simulating.
Yes, I go like that. I got in the car, jumped in, put the keys in. I just hit my cast. Started the car and left. The car door shut itself. God.
She was giddy.
She's just joking around. She's, you know, oh, I hit my cast. Then I think there's a clip here somewhere where she goes, that hurt more than, and she caught herself and she stopped what she was saying. Investigators think that she was going to say that hurt more than the time that I shot myself. And 100% she was about to slip and say something, but she stopped herself. Why did she stop herself? Why did she not continue what she was going to say? Hopefully that clip is here somewhere. You're reenacting such a scary moment and you're just like, ha ha ha, like, yeah, this happened, ha, that happened. Oh shit, I just hit my car. Oh damn. Like here I am thinking, gosh, she's going to be so hysterical. She's going to be so like scared to reenact this. You'd think that you'd be bloody petrified to do this. If she took a polygraph test, she would pass with flying colors because she believes her lies that much.
She doesn't seem at all upset.
This is worse than
Yeah. See, this is worse than the... And then she kind of nods and stops. What were you about to say, Diane?
I'm sure he didn't intend to shoot my arm.
Why are you laughing about it?
We were just out, I guess, sightseeing, I guess you'd say. And the kids got tired. They fell asleep in the car, so I decided to just head on home. But I saw a road I hadn't been on before. We like to take back roads. And just went down that road. And there was a guy standing in the road, flagging me down, so I stopped. Everything was done in a matter of 5 or 10 seconds. He swung himself around and fired twice. One caught me in the arm, the other one I went off somewhere. Danny cried the whole way. I could hear him softly just moaning, and Christy was dying. God, all the blood, all the pain.
You know, do you see how cold her eyes are? Like, God, all the blood, she was dying. Like, those are not the words that I feel like a mother would use when they are so upset. Does she not think, you know, why would you stop for a man when you've got 3 kids in the car? That's kid safety 101. Like, you don't stop for anyone, especially in the middle of the night when you don't have any other adult with you, you know, you're the only person with your kids. If your kids are sleeping, why are you going sightseeing? You know, are you going to wake them up to show them the sights? I'm pretty sure they don't really care about sights when they're sleeping.
Emotionally, she was flat.
I kept trying to tell
Detached.
her to roll over so she wouldn't choke on the blood, and it didn't dawn on me at the time that the blood was coming from her lungs.
Her behavior was not anything that you would expect for a mother who'd gone.
And as I say, she may be the only one to get me out of this. Would I have brought her to the hospital? Wouldn't she be the one that I would make sure is dead? There are too many holes in it. If I had shot my own children, would I not have done a good job of it? Why would I have taken my kids to the hospital? Wouldn't I have made sure they were dead and then cried crocodile tears? That's insane.
That's what she was trying to do. She was trying to make sure that her kids died. That's exactly what she did by driving 2 kilometers an hour to get to the hospital. She was trying to make sure that they died. So that is invalid. What she's saying is invalid. She just seems so angry about the fact that people are blaming her, not even angry at the murderer. I've not once heard, how dare he do this? How could he do this? Nothing. All I've heard is me, 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 me.
That's insane to think that I would do such a thing and then bring the witnesses in against myself. That's crazy.
See, that's the first time I've seen any kind of emotion, any anger, because everyone's eyes are pointed at her. Everyone is looking at her as a suspect. That's the first time I've actually seen some kind of angry emotion from her.
Anything to help out and find the guy that shot my kids. Somebody took her, but we have to get better.
That's the first time I've seen her cry. That's some kind of real emotion, according to the situation. Now, yeah, they're probably crocodile tears, but she's probably like, shit, I better start crying because, sorry, the sun's right in my face. She's probably like, I better start crying because people are really not going to believe me if I just never cry. Yeah, there we go again. Smiling, laughing, looking at the cameras, loving the attention, all of that, dressed really nicely, just no care in the world.
Danny's going to walk again. I don't care if we just have to will him to walk. I think he's going to walk. The doctors all say he won't. But I know that your mind controls your body, and if I can love him enough and encourage him enough, I believe he'll walk.
That's not genuine, like, hope. That's just, she's just saying all the right things for the camera.
This man shot my daughter. My first reaction was to snap back to my childhood, to the pain that had happened to me back then, my marriage, my entrapment by society. This man was bigger than me. He was stronger than me. He had more power because he had a gun. And I stood there and I looked at Christy reaching, and the blood that just kept gushing out of her mouth. What do you do?
How do you smile at that? What, so you thought of all this in the 5-10 seconds? You're telling me in the 5 to 10 seconds that this whole thing happened, you're snapping back to your past, unbothered about your kids in the back getting shot at? Why would you even say that though? You know, why would you be so like detailed and graphic when you're talking about your child dying?
The gun kept firing and firing and firing, and it made It was monotonous. It just kept going. It was like a slow motion picture. When he swung
Slow motion, yet it happened in 5 to 10 seconds.
When he swung around, he was pointing, when he swung around, it hit the tips of my fingers. The gun hit the tips of my fingers, and that snapped me. And I went, wait a minute. I'm not trapped by society. I don't care if he is bigger. If I stand here and I say, yeah, here, take the keys. I mean, there's nothing I can do. You win because you have the gun. My kids are going to die. And I'm not going to let my kids die. And so instead of giving him the keys, I feigned throwing the keys.
I just find it so hard to believe what in the 5 to 10 seconds that all she thought about all this.
He did not take time to point the gun and shoot me, obviously, because he would have shot me the same way he did the kids. When he was swinging in the direction of the keys, firing the gun, he hit my arm. Everybody says, you sure were lucky. Well, I don't feel very lucky. I couldn't tie my damn shoes for about 2 months.
She's got 99 problems, but she's worried about the problem of her tying her shoe. And she's like, I don't feel lucky. Oh my God, can't believe that happened to me. When her kids are way worse than her. And her issue out of everything is that she can't tie her shoe.
The scar is going to be there forever. I'm going to remember that night for the rest of my life, whether I want to or not. I don't think I was.
I hope you do.
The blood splatters on the outside of the car showing Downs shot Cheryl outside of the car.
We saw pictures of this so-called spatter.
You see how she's smiling when she says splatter? You're talking about your child's blood splatter. You're smiling about it?
It's drops. When they took the kids, they took Chris and Cher out of the driver's side of the car. And it's blood droplets. What do I see most is blood coming out of Christy's mouth. Because that's what I see. I can't see Danny, and I can't see Cher. Sherry was laying on the floor. Danny is just crying real soft. So that sound stays in my mind.
The music was on. She's saying it's soft crying. How are you hearing Danny cry in the back? How? Christy said that the music was on the whole time. How are you hearing Danny cry? Why are you wrapping the towel on your arm without attending to your kids first? She doesn't explain how the towel got there. You'll see later.
But what of Downs' fourth child, the baby about to be born?
I'd like to see him try to take this baby from me. And how?
Even just then, she's talking about how, you know, they're going to take the baby off her. And she's laughing about it. Like, how are you going to take the baby off me? Like, you know, you're talking about them taking your child off you. Why are you laughing about it? This is a serious thing. It just goes to show she's not attached to her kids in that way. She's not. She's just using them as props in the media. She has no attachment. She has no proper, that nurturing, motherly kind of side to her. Yeah, this is just her mannerisms and how she's like smiling and, you know, just talking as if it's a casual conversation. You know, it's just very eerie. Again, once again, loving the camera.
I don't know what is in the picture.
You were pregnant at trial. Why did you get pregnant again?
I was extremely lonely. I missed my kids desperately. I had just seen Christy on the 2nd of October, and it's like opening a wound and pouring salt in. I was extremely lonely.
So you're lonely, so you're just like, oh, I might as well just pop out another kid because I'm feeling lonely.
Beyond belief and beyond explanation. And on October 13th, I just went and got pregnant because I was so lonely. I love my children. I miss my children. And I know that sounds simplistic. It really does. And I have to admit that. And that's why I say there's so much more feeling inside than I can give in 2 minutes.
Yes, I have.
And what do you think?
I take issue with much of it.
Okay. What do you take issue with?
Well, she considers it a true story, and she's quoted me all through the book and tells the reader how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking at various times all through the book. Yet she's never interviewed me. How does she do that? How does she justify that being a true story?
So over here, she's talking about this woman who wrote the book, Small Sacrifices. And she's saying that she does not agree with the book because there's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of false information. And of course, she's mad at it because like the book and the movie points all evidence to Diane. So obviously, she's not happy with the book and the movie.
Okay, Anne, how do you justify that?
Well, Diane, I'm sure you remember my coming to jail and interviewing you.
June 26th.
20 minutes, Anne. And I also sat in the courtroom while you testified for 4 days and told your entire life, from your childhood abuse through your marriage, through your
multiple affairs, how you felt about it, and at one point you said to the prosecutor, Mr. Hughie, would you like me to explain how I met all my lovers and how our affairs were carried out?
And he said, no, that wouldn't be necessary.
He did, and then you went ahead and told it anyway, Diane, which for a writer, you helped me a lot in your testimony.
You say that. You say.
So I've added this bit in just because I wanted to show you guys how against this book Diane is, and just how she hates Anne, like you can just tell. And she's so like nonchalant, and every time like the audience laugh, she doesn't realize that they're actually laughing at her. So she laughs along as if it's kind of like, ha ha ha, yes, what I'm saying is so funny. But really, Diane, they're laughing at you, you know, they're laughing at you, not with you.
A lot of people don't understand how a mother could stand by and watch her 3 children be shot and not be hysterical.
Oprah is asking all the right questions. Let's see what Diane says.
Well, it wasn't like going to the baseball field and having popcorn and hot dogs and watching.
Like, why are you describing it as a baseball game? Are you kidding me?
Part in your arm when you got to the hospital was completely wrapped in a triangle bandage.
They're talking about the towel here. So look at how Diane reacts to this.
Wrapped in a triangle bandage.
She's nodding, smiling.
Made out of a towel.
Geez. Oh, geez, Anne, you're comical. You are so far-fetched.
There we go. Straight away, Diane points the finger back at her and says, you're comical, you're hilarious. Straight away, manipulative behavior.
There was a towel wrapped around my arm. Yes, there absolutely was. And I don't know how it got there any more than you know how it got there. Although...
Oh my God, so you're telling me it's carefully wrapped and folded, yet you don't know how it got there. You just have a memory blank, is that it? Interesting.
Putting the towel on my arm at some point, obviously, before I got to the stop sign where I realized that it was on. And
so she didn't realize that the towel was on her until she got to a stop sign. I'm sorry, but if your kids are dying, I'm running through the stop signs, I'm running through red lights, like I am getting to that hospital. But she stops there, she's following the rules there, but then there's this crazy weird man on the street, on an abandoned road, but you stop for him. You're following the rules there, but you're not using your brain when it comes to this mysterious man. Right. Okay.
And I am assuming that that's why I was going so slow.
So she's saying she's assuming that's why she went so slowly, because she was wrapping her arm, but she does not recollect that memory because she knows there's no explanation for that. She knows that if she says, yeah, I was wrapping the towel, this or that, how are you going to justify wrapping your arm so neatly with one hand while also driving? So she's saying, oh, I might have been going so slow because I was wrapping my arm. I don't know. Like, she's just trying to put it out there like she does not know. But she knows it's not going to make sense. So she's trying to just swerve that answer. She's trying not to answer it.
You knew who the killer was, but that's something you forgot to tell police on the night of the shooting. So weeks later,
Again, she's smiling. Again, she's just being ridiculous and smug. I hate her.
Were you afraid to tell police that you knew who the person was?
No. I'm trying to explain.
Okay,
I did not know.
Go ahead.
I did not know who this person was.
Every time she smiles, I get irritated. Like, I just get so mad.
A lot of people can't understand, Diane, why you'd be out on a dark road and stop for a stranger.
Well, we were always out on dark roads, light roads, city roads, country roads. I was a single woman. I had been divorced for a couple of years, and quite frankly, I got pretty used to driving by myself with the kids.
So late at night, 9:30, the stranger is in the middle of the road, and so it didn't even occur to you that maybe I shouldn't stop?
Well, I'd picked up many hitchhikers before. This man was not a hitchhiker, but I had picked up hitchhikers before, and nobody ever shot us before. And quite frankly, nobody had ever been, no strange man had ever treated me or my children in such a way, and I just had no preconceived notion that he might do those things.
At that time at night, you know, you've got your 3 kids in the car, you think it's a good idea, and just because you always took back roads means that you stop for a stranger. I mean, take the back roads by all means, but stopping for a stranger is a bit excessive, not to mention dangerous.
How did this man know your children were in the car? Because if the children were sleeping and lying down in the back of the car, it's dark on the road, how would he know to reach into the car and shoot 3 children separately?
Oprah, I can only give you my conclusion as to what I think might have happened, because I don't know. I didn't take the time to ask him how or why.
But oh my God, it's just like that sarcasm. I didn't take the time out to ask him. Like, you know, Oprah's not asking whether you asked the man. Oprah's asking, how does it make sense in your head that this killer in pitch black shot at your kids? That's what Oprah's asking. She's not asking whether you asked the killer. She's trying to say, take the time out to really think about it and ask yourself how. Ask yourself, how did the killer see your kids?
But when he got inside the
See,
car...
she's laughing with the audience. Babe, they're not laughing at what you're saying. They're laughing at you.
The whole thesis for the reason why you shot your children is that you had a lover, be he Lou or Nick. I don't know what his true name is.
His real name is Nick.
Okay, Nick. And that you had this lover, Nick, and you were...
And then I was so totally obsessed.
Were you obsessed?
If you read the transcript, Oprah, and I really hate to sound like a broken record, but if you read the transcript, you're going to see that Robert
I just want you to tell me.
obsessed.
I don't care what the transcript says. I want you to tell me.
I love Oprah. She's like, you tell me. I don't care what the transcript says or the reports say. You tell me, were you obsessed with Nick? And listen to what she says.
I don't think I've ever been obsessed with a man in my life. There are too many men in the world, quite frankly.
So you were not... Okay,
I had
were
many
you not...
lovers. I had many lovers at that time.
So all the poetry and all the letters and all the diary entries just meant nothing. Her specifically saying that she absolutely loves him and there's no other man for her than him. She's not obsessed. Okay.
Were you madly in love with him?
I loved him. I've never been madly in love with anybody.
Okay, so let me just ask you this, Diane. Are you saying that he liked kids and liked your kids and wanted to be with you and your kids?
I can only tell you what he testified to, Oprah, and
she's always talking about testifying. She's not talking about what conversations that Nick and her might have had about the kids. You know, it really goes to show that she does not want to say straight up that Nick told me he does not want to have kids. Just say it straight up. You know, I feel like she thinks it's going to make her look guilty, which, yeah, obviously it does. And I wholeheartedly believe that she did what she did because of this lover, that she wanted to be with this lover and to get rid of what was stopping them from being together so that once they were out of the way, out of the picture, they could just start their whole new life together. Why does she keep going back to what the transcript says? Why can't she just say, he told me, we spoke about it, that he does not want a child? Why does she have to keep going back to what he testified in court? Stop worrying about the court, stop worrying about the trial and what happened in the trial. Talk about what he specifically told you personally. That's what they're trying to ask, not about what the proof is and what this is and what that is. She's so focused on making herself look as innocent as possible in every little corner that she forgets about the personal conversations that she would have had with people.
He said then that he was afraid because he believed that you had shot your children because of him.
Yeah.
And so,
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, geez, that's his problem and not mine. I mean, that's his paranoia and his fears.
Wow.
Give me a break.
Wow.
I'm not the one that said that.
Oh.
Give me a break. That's his paranoia, throwing it back on him, of course. Manipulation. This is a narcissistic woman right here.
You seem to be fascinated with getting pregnant. Is that true?
Oh, geez, Anne, I think you're in permanent heat. I'm serious. Anne says those things. I do not say those things. I'm sorry, Oprah, that she put you through this. She did the same thing in another show in Chicago. She should have... Oh, I'm
sorry. She says that you are...
Again, she's putting it back. Like, I'm so sorry that Anne is saying these things. She's done it so many times. You know, she's saying all this. She's throwing it back on Anne, you know, saying that she's the bad one for saying all these things. When
Why did you were pregnant at trial. Why did you get pregnant again?
Another real bad time in my life. At that time, real bad time in my life. It's...
Again, joking about it, bad times, I might as well just have another kid. It's selfish. It's just so selfish.
You are a woman who is serving life plus 65 years for shooting your children in the back, in the chest. One of your children is now dead. Yeah. And you tell this story like you're talking about going to the state fair. And so you need to...
Again, smiling, nodding when Oprah's saying your kids were shot in the back. Very specific. Oprah was very specific. She didn't bat an eyelid. She was just like, I know there's a lot of time that passed when this interview took place, but still, it's just so cold. It's very cold.
I hid my feelings inside, my grief, my pain inside. If I had been caught by the camera crying in public, they'd go, oh, she's crying because she feels really guilty about what she's done. And if I smile, they'd go, wow, she's really hard and cold. She doesn't care what she's done.
When you're a grieving mother, the last thing you would care about is what the cameras think. You know, you show your emotion how you're meant to show it. You know, why is she so coached? She shouldn't care at this point, you know. All that should be in her mind is we need to find the killer. That's it. Not about what she's looking like, not about whether she's crying or laughing. If anything, why are you laughing? But the weird thing is that she, not once, like, yes, she shed a little bit of tears, but there was never a moment where she looked hysterical or like just sad. It was always smiling. It was always like smug and sarcastic. There was never a moment of hysteria.
No matter what I said or did, people are going to perceive me the way they want to.
Yeah, and that is true. And why should she care about that if she's a mother who's just lost a child?
People saw you in emergency that night. The detectives who interviewed you, the police who were on the scene, all thought that you had, to say the least, an inappropriate response for a mother whose children had just been shot. Was this
again? She's smiling. She's smiling. Like, yes, inappropriate. Yes, yes.
Was this a facade for you? Were you?
No. Absolutely not.
Were you pained inside and just not able to express it, or what was going on?
There were a lot of different things involved. First of all, you have to understand that again, we're talking about testimony, but the detectives and the doctors and the nurses all testified that they have never seen such a thing before. They'd never seen children shot before, none of them. So they didn't know how people are supposed to react to that. They'd never seen it.
Did she really just say that? And then she like does this thing with her notes. Like, she knows what she said is so stupid. So she's trying to distract herself. So because the doctors and nurses have never seen a situation like this, they didn't know that how Diane should be reacting. I'm pretty sure if people see you know, your situation and it's that horrific, they can make an assumption of how that the mother's going to react. And it's definitely not the way she did. They would assume that a mother would be in hysterics or completely just in shock to the point of like not talking. This woman was so calm, making her phone calls, chilling out, accepting that Danny was paralyzed. Those behaviors were not normal. You know, they didn't have to see specifically a mother and her children shot to know that how a mother should react to that. And that's why the audience is laughing, because it just sounds so ridiculous. And I think she realized that when she went like that and looked away. She's like, oh, yeah, that did not make any sense. And then this is the last clip.
And he said something to the effect of, I want your car. And I laughed at him. And I said, you've got to be kidding. Christy and Danny were in the back seat. When we got to the hospital, they were still crying. The nurses reported that they were still crying.
Yeah, there we go. So again, this is in like very recent days. I think it was like a couple years ago. And again, she's telling the story as if it's just something that happened over the weekend, you know. But so yeah, it is spine curdling. It is just ridiculous the way that she acted and behaved throughout that, and even till now. She's been denied parole. Let me know if you guys want me to go through more of these types of interviews, you know, just to have a look at it together. Please leave your suggestions down below for any cases that you want to see from me. Like I said before, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It will help me out so much. Please stay happy, please stay amazing, please stay positive, and I shall catch you next week. Bye.